How's everybody doing today?
Oh,
How are you doing, Elizabeth?
I'm doing great. How are you? I'm so excited.
Yeah, no, I'm doing really well. This is our first time, or my first time, using this new platform. Excuse me, Riverside FM. So, yeah, yeah, I'm pretty excited about it too. 32 has been in the works for about a month or so. Finally, got it off the ground, and I said it was going to be in May, and it is in May. So, yeah. Um, we're still trying to, get a few of the kinks out and whatnot. Um, we do have a live stream chat on um, YouTube. So
Is it under North Compass Media?
yeah, it's under Encompass Media. Yep.
Gotcha.
So okay, cool. Yeah, it's cool because it gives me a constant uploading of the progress of the strength in the signal. So that's good too. So but it does show that my computer wants to restart, and I'm just going to give it the big finger and say no.
It can wait a little
So
while.
it can wait a little bit. Right, exactly. so so 32 is basically a number that kind of came across my vision of what a new show would be like. I've had several in the past that have basically surrounded the discussion around the paranormal and whatnot and spiritualism and all that. So this time, I think that when 32 came, was I was talking with Elizabeth and we were trying to figure out something because we always wanted to do something new because we had done something a couple times in the past. We used to do readings for people live on YouTube and Facebook and our lives just kind of happened where we kind of just went our separate ways, and then we kind of reconnected again. And so yeah, I thought, hey, why don't we, do a show together? And she agreed reluctantly, and
I don't know about
and
reluctantly.
yeah, no, so um, she actually has a spirit in her home that's messing with her right now. Um, Yeah, so it's if you hear the static on her end, and I hear it too, and he's kind of he's not really happy that she's doing this, and I don't know why, but so yeah, so anyways, so we started this, and I was trying to find a name for the show, and 32 came across my mind, and it was kind of more prevalent and kept coming into my mind, and so I looked it up. And it's a lot of it is about spiritual balance and harmony, and trusting your inner guidance and your guides and whatnot. And I really it really resonated with me a lot, and I really was kind of taken back that that was something that really kind of stuck with me. And so yeah, so I mean, people, if you're interested, you can look up um the spiritual um, significance of 32. And it's pretty amazing. There's a couple different meanings and random statements about it. And they talk about love, they talk about numerology and other things. And but a lot of it has to do with the guidance and ascending into a higher realm of spiritualism and understanding who you are and trusting yourself and but yeah, so That's why we decided to. That's why we decided to do this show. That is totally you, right?
That's
That's not me. Your mic keeps cutting out. He's trying to prevent you from speaking for some reason. Is he that controlling? Yeah, I can't hear you at all now. All I can hear is your static. And you have a good picture. That's the whole thing too. So if anybody's um, watching this and you hear something strange or odd or whatnot, um, yeah. But for some reason, you're being messed with. And I tell you what, I'm looking at the YouTube feed and it looks really well. It looks really good. So yeah, it looks I mean this looks way better than my computer. So awesome. I'm very pleased with that. So do you still have do you have mic? Can you speak or are you mute? Yeah, I can't even hear you. All I hear is static on your end. And weird wavelengths. Can you hear it? You can't hear it? Oh, you can feel it. Okay, yeah. I don't know if you need to have a conversation with this individual, please do because I would like to talk to my host, you know. But as I was saying, so while she works with the technical difficulties of that, that's fine. Um I've had other shows in the past and I still have a couple other ones that I still do. Paranormal Memoirs is one of my favorites that I do. I discuss the stories of my past, of my experiences and run-ins with the paranormal and whatnot. Those, excuse me, those episodes are probably some of my favorite that I've done. Um, I've also got a couple new ones that are coming up, and yeah, I really look forward to doing those. It's just finding time to do them all, and I also have Paranormal Saloon, which that is also another fun show that I do on here on YouTube as well as Facebook. So, but I probably am going to just stick with Facebook, just because, um, to be honest with you, right now nobody really watches anything on Facebook anymore. I mean, I see some other people that have had different shows and stuff, and I try to watch some of them, but I mean, it's just like they have one or two viewers in there, and in my opinion, people just don't care, and some watch, some don't. It depends on what you're talking about. I don't talk about politics. Excuse me. I talk about paranormal and spiritualism. But do we have anything? Nope, I still can't hear you. Mm-mm. So yeah, so check out my paranormal memoir show and paranormal saloon. And Yeah, that those are a couple of my favorites. I'm also on Roku where you can find some old episodes of Studio Six Paranormal Podcast. That's under Ghost Planet Network as well. So, and that's on Roku, and I think it's on Amazon now. I'm not too sure, but yeah. So, I know that Elizabeth had some great talking points that she wanted to discuss and talk about some things. But for some reason, she's having some technical difficulties and some difficulties with the sound. Her picture is fantastic, by the way. Um, but the sound is just non-existent. Um, she's become a mute, so which it happens. There's she's laughing. There's technical difficulties. I mean, especially when doing new shows and whatnot. You know, um, yeah. So, but getting back to 32 to me is something that people can kind of take a page out of it. And
Testing.
oh wait, do I hear you?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Still quiet? Is it better or no?
No, you're better.
Maybe.
No, you're better. I can hear you. Oh my god, I can hear you.
It's a miracle.
Right. You're a little bit laggy. But I just think that is just I don't know what that is. I don't care, but it's probably not like that on YouTube. It might be, a
Oh,
little bit behind here, you know what I mean, on the app. So yeah. Okay.
okay.
So you had some talking points,
Yes.
and you go ahead and,
Yeah.
and kind of
So
discuss
from
some of that.
okay. Yeah,
Go ahead.
so one thing just before I was talking to the spirit, and the spirit or entity basically has his own agenda. And that's the reason why he did not want me to talk, is because he wants to talk about what he wants to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so was trying to make sure to get that point across.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
point taken, got
Right.
it.
Right. Thanks a
uh,
lot, there, buddy.
yeah.
So.
So I know 32 in general, we're talking about journeys, and just in thinking about it, journeys, we focus on spiritual and paranormal, but sometimes it's also the physical things that we do here on earth that really lead us to who we are. And
Mm-hmm.
so, as we're looking at guests and who it is that we want to see and hopefully share information out, like my thought process or my thoughts are that this is hopefully a platform for those that don't know where to go to find the information, or they're just new and they've discovered that they have these amazing gifts and they have a
Mm-hmm.
purpose, and they just want to know where where they can get some help along their journey, understanding we're not doctors, we're not psychologists, we're not, this is for
Right.
entertainment only, but it provides that guidance that people may be looking for, instead of just worrying and thinking that they're
Right.
crazy because they're not.
Right. And how many times do you think that has actually happened in a conversation? I've run into quite a few different people in giving readings or giving just general counsel, just with even friends or whatever that have experienced their gifts and they're coming out and their gifts, and that's the first thing they always ask: "Am I crazy?" And you're not crazy. Now, there's other different elements to being crazy now,
Yeah.
but experiencing gifts like spiritualism and readings and even talking with the deceased or seeing visions of something. I mean, it doesn't make us crazy. The world over time has easily adapted that. um, People who are like this have mental issues. And to that, I would say that's that's an unfounded characteristic for a person. You know what I mean? I think that's it's kind of it's easy to call people crazy. It's easy to say you have a mental defect. It's easy, you know what I mean, without even getting the whole diagnosis or whatever. And even that is kind of, to me, is kind of suspect. I mean, life experience and life and all the things that happens in life, and that's kind of makes up who we are. If you've been traumatized your whole life, yeah, you've had abuse and you had this, you had that. I'm sorry, but I mean that's kind of your makeup. That's what you've been subjected to. I mean, we can go back and we can talk about people in a cult. What they're subjected to, what they believe, and what they, you know what I mean. And so it's kind of like that whole thing of kind of being, drilled into your head and this and that. And this is something that we don't do. We're not trying to drill. You have to do this.
Yeah,
This is
no.
the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not something. It's something whereas people who have questions and people want to know more about, the spiritualism and what's on the other side and aspect. And we try to dive into that a little bit and try to get those answers. It's that proverbial what's on the other side, question. And yeah, we all want to know. And
Yeah.
some of us do. Some of us claim to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can't say that 100% this is what it is. You know what I mean? I could say that only what I see.
Yeah. Well, there's so many questions out there.
Right,
It's like
right, right.
because we're talking about what's on the other side. I mean, what about like before we got here? What about
Mhm.
the past? Like, what's with the past life? Past life regressions and the remembering past lives,
Mhm.
and what's with the different planes? Different planes of existence. Some believe it, some don't. Like,
Mhm.
just like, for example, I know in your other paranormal saloon, you would had
Mhm.
some episodes about UFOs. What else is out there? So I
Right.
think it's just this whole journey,
Mhm.
the idea of creativity and growth and just elevating and our consciousness
Mhm.
and learning what we can, understanding that chances are, even with everything that we learn, there's more out there.
Oh, I totally agree. I totally agree. Now, if there's a movie, ever seen that movie Lucy
I don't think so.
with
I should watch that. I don't. I've
with
heard of it. Yeah,
what's her
Scarlett
name?
Johansson.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now she takes this synthetic drug that is supposed to, like she actually had it. She was carrying it or whatever. Long story short, she had an overload of it in her system, and that basically was rewriting her brain, and making it, this where she could manipulate things and she could do, telekinesis and all that stuff. I mean, and the theory of that, which isn't really, it's kind of been an ongoing thing, is it is a theory, but we only use a small percentage of our brain.
Hmm.
And in that movie, they say if you use 20% of your brain, you basically, or 20% or more, you can remap your brain. You
Yeah.
can, redo. I mean, it's make pathways, different path. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
so that's what I kind of think of. I think that we are on a small scale, and there are people that are kind of coming out of their cocoon, so to speak, and they have questions. Now, we don't claim to know it all.
No,
We
not
won't
even
say
close.
we won't
Yeah.
say we do.
Yeah.
I mean, we try to help guide people into, do what's best for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's not so much, we're not fortune tellers. We're not, we don't tell you the future. We definitely don't give you any lottery numbers, because if that was the case, I wouldn't be here, you know. But no, it's seriously, it's just that whole thing of we could have a conversation and talk about spiritualism. We could talk about what's on their side. We could talk about a person's gifts. We can talk about We're gonna have a guest on hopefully next week that um, has written a book about um, his near death experience and whatnot. You know what I mean? So, um, yeah, we want to talk to these people, and we want to be able to have a kind of a roundtable discussion so that people listening to the show can actually, you know, form their own opinion about it. And if they're unsure, if they're scared, or they don't, they think it's devil's work or it's this or that. I challenge people to just do some honest research, and just
Yeah.
you know kind of like reading different books, and different theories and different elements of the spiritualism and where it started in the early 1900s and having all the round table seances, which I'm not into seances, but you know, I know there are some people that are, and there's so much out there that we just have to, as a collective, kind of share that information in a positive way and not be judgmental. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have
Just
in the
having that
past,
unbiased. Yeah. Just being
right? And
unbiased. Yeah.
in the past, we have me and you both have run into people that you would think that they had a good path that they were on, and then you realize that they were not. They were being judgmental, and they were name calling or just being disrespectful. Now, I mean that is something that we do not and condone. We do not come from that. We don't. If somebody comes on our show and we're not going to sit there and belittle them, or we're not going, we may have a different view or opinion, but it's not something whereas they're that person's opinion is their own, and we as a collective and even as a human, it's just respect, you know
Yeah. For
so
sure.
yeah.
So I think one of the questions is what type of things do you think? I mean, I know we've said a little bit beforehand, but what type of things are you looking for or looking toward for yourself in your growth through this podcast?
A sense of peace, I mean, I can, you and I both know, being gifted, mediums, or even eccentric, or worrisome, worrisome people, and it can cause you stress. And for us, I know a medium that she is under constant stress, and she has anxiety all the time, and it's like, and I don't know how to help her. I don't know how to, and she's highly connected that way. You know what I mean? And I don't know how to really, explain that to me. How can somebody that has that connection, is very gifted, have so much anxiety? You know what I mean? And so much stress. And so it's just confusing to me.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be able to impede myself with that stress. You know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to exercising my belief system in a way where I can get input from other people, and even spiritual people, from the collective, or just regular people. You know what I mean? Who don't practice their gifts or whatnot. But I want to be able to evolve and grow, and that, and so I look forward to that. I think that there is something to be gained from having this show. The different views of different points of views and different aspects of and theories and whatnot, and hearing people's stories of inspiration, or even inspiration of desperation, or whatnot, can play a role in that. And a lot of it has to do with just having people listening, and having it go into their ears and resonate to some degree. And that is one of my probably my main goals. I always wanted to be a musician when I was younger,
Right.
but It just never worked that way, and but I always wanted to create music for people that so that it would help not change their lives but inspire them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think as long as people are using discernment whenever they're listening to any, and you may not believe everything,
Mhm. So, what would be one of your goals in doing this show?
respectful. For me, it's helping humanity and helping to raise that consciousness for people in
Hmm.
general. Um, just the same as I think a lot of us, not everyone has had the experience where, they grew up seeing spirits or hearing spirits or just knowing what else was out there and then being comfortable about talking about it.
Hmm.
Just today I got told that because I have a thing of the astrology chart behind me, that that makes me demonic. So that to me says immediately that someone is judgmental
Hmm.
and biased.
Hmm.
And hey, I get
Right, right, and I get that too. I mean, there's people that just don't quite understand that, and you know, they fear the things that they don't understand, and
yeah,
that was one of my biggest fears of
things are
coming
scary.
out of yeah one of my biggest fears of coming out as being gifted and a medium and whatnot and being able to portray that is because you know I had to shed that thing of what people thought of me. I had to get rid of that. I had to not play into that, um, and create that stress for me. I had to accept myself for who I was instead of worrying about what everybody thought I was. You know what I mean? So, yeah, you're still breaking up a little bit. Are you kind of stuck? I think she's stuck.
There goes.
What's that?
There, I think it's better.
No, you're still freezing. You're freezing in and out, in and out. So, I don't know.
Okay.
Okay,
How
you're
about
back.
now? No.
Yeah, okay, you're back.
Better, maybe for now. Okay.
Yeah,
Goodness
right,
gracious. Oh,
right.
yeah.
So,
I think that I think we can help people.
I do too. And I want to have that good conversation. I want to be able to learn something new myself. And that's another reason why I did this show or did any podcast, because of the fact that I wanted that education. I wanted that other view, points of view, because it's just you know I don't know. There were so many cool people that I've run into over the years and interviewed over the years that I found things in myself that I didn't know was there, but because my guest had kind of described something in a certain way that made me look deeper inside, and that's happened a few times where I had to really look inside.
Yeah. Are there any topics that you are super excited about, like being able to have here?
Um, I I'm really interested in talking about. I love the whole past lives thing. I mean the not thing, but I mean what I
Hmm.
mean. But it's talking about past lives and talking about even near death NDEs, near death experiences, and stuff like that. Having that different perspective from person that has basically kind of crossed over that veil and what they've experienced, and everybody's not everybody, but the majority of people's experiences are similar, but not the same. You know what I mean? And
Right.
it's just I've watched a lot of different ones that were um, kind of scripted that way, and it was like, yeah, I've heard this story very many times, and it's just kind of like, I don't know. I just know I've listened to other ones, and it's just, and they're not even close. And so I want to have a discussion about that. I want to have a discussion, a serious discussion about people who have had NDEs and what the comparison is between the guy down the road or the guy in the White House or the guy, you know what I mean? So I want to have that whole, broad spectrum conversation because I would love to pick their brain, and that's why I think that having guests on um, at times and discussing different viewpoints and that just to see what they have to say, because I mean, I've had some guests in the past on some of my other shows, and they have totally like I wasn't expecting that. You know what I mean? And so yeah, they really surprised. Gave me a surprise. So yeah, but yeah, I'm open to a lot of different things. Is there something in particular that you
Yeah.
feel drawn to?
So lately for me, it's been about out of body experiences,
Okay.
and then being able to travel to places using my consciousness and having my body here. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think past lives, I've always been curious about past lives just
So have
because,
I.
yeah, I feel like that plays such a part for those that believe in it. Like for those that don't, I'd be curious to know like what they think. Like you just all of these things that you're afraid of that there's no rationale to it. Like why do you think you're afraid of that? Where
Mm-hmm.
in a past life so many things that just seem, oh well, in a past life this happened. I mean, can you prove it? Well, no, but it makes
Right.
sense, like the
Right.
people that you remember that you come across and you're like, I
Mm-hmm.
know that person.
Right.
I
Right.
I
Right.
dreamt about that person, and this is,
Mm-hmm.
like, or the photographs that they now come that because we have so the technology, the photographs that you come up with that you're like, this looks just like this person who
Mm-hmm.
passed away,
Mm-hmm.
and and now you have this person that looks just like them, not
Mm-hmm.
related. So it,
Right. Right.
yeah, it fascinates me.
Right. No, I would agree. That fascinates me as well. And that is another one of my episodes that I'm going to talk on paranormal memoirs is my dream state is what I'm going to call it
Yeah,
because I've had several dreams where I was not myself. I was somebody else
yeah.
and experienced death in that sense. A drowning,
Hmm.
being shot. Um, yeah, it's just it's amazing that I've able to. Um, I've had these type of dreams my whole life, but I just think it's amazing to be able to experience them, and then later in life try to look back and think why did I have that or why did this happen this way? You know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas before, I mean, I wasn't always into my spiritualism. I knew I was gifted to a certain degree, but I was not following the path. So, but until since then, but now I am, wholeheartedly in it, and for a while now. And then I kind of look back and why didn't I think about that? Why didn't And then I look back and I'm like, I experienced that in a dream, and so yeah. So I mean, that episode on paranormal memoirs is going to be really good because I've got some really good ones that
Yeah.
actually where reality came to play. I mean, I had the dream, reality showed up, and I couldn't believe it. So, but it's moments like that do you have to wonder. It's like sometimes these things feel also scripted, you know,
Yeah.
and so and not to get into the conspiracy theory, but man, it's like. And I see all these people talking about we live in a matrix, and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, yeah, that would really suck. I mean, that would
I mean,
really suck. But
I've also heard the theory that says that based off of every decision, because you live in a matrix, but free will is a thing, but there are so many possibilities that God already knows all of the possible things that you're going to choose, that when you choose it, you have now split that universe and gone on a different path.
right, I've heard
And
that
it just
too,
continues. Yeah,
and
it just
that's
continues
that's
forever.
scary. That's scary as hell. If you really think about it,
Yeah.
it's like, what did I split this time? I mean, so yeah,
Yeah. Or how many
but
times you may have died, like, because
and I've
yeah, of
thought
your
about
journey.
that.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
just with your journey alone, like we're talking about, our journeys and how we got to where we are now. Like, what would have happened if
and here's another theory, and somebody said this to me, and he's a skeptic, and he's a good friend of mine, and I used to work with him, and he posed this question. He's like, "What if we've died already 100
Mhm.
times,
Yeah.
and but we just don't remember? Who pushes the reset button?"
Oh,
And so it's
yeah,
you,
source.
you
Yeah.
know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
if I seriously look back at some things that I was doing when I was younger, there were moments that where I had to close my eyes and you know at that moment close my eyes and then open my eyes and say, "How did I survive that? Did I?"
Yeah. It's like Groundhog
You
Day,
know what I
right?
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. Do you know how many, like, I think about this all the time, of all of the movies that are out there, how many of them that while we watch them and we're like, this is insane, that there is
right,
so much truth in them
right.
that
Where
we're
do they
we're just
come
like,
from?
yeah.
Where but I tell everybody this, it comes from somebody's brain.
Hmm.
Somebody thought of that.
Yeah.
So you have to really think about it isn't just a movie to watch and it's like, "Oh, that's really queer, really weird and crazy," and then all of a sudden it's like that came from somebody's brain.
Yeah. And it could be a journey that they had or a dream that they had that wasn't really a
Right.
dream. Like, we don't know.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's a rabbit hole. I mean,
Yeah.
seriously, that is a
Yay! We
yeah.
found one. Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah. Right. And I don't think that is not something we should shy away from because not to say that I'm all in on conspiracy theories, but I'm just saying that it's kind of like the what if series.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? What if
Yeah.
this happened? What if that happened?
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
it happen or didn't it
I mean,
happen?
if a person believes that it happened or it happened to them, then in my mind, it that means it happened, right? Just because
Right.
I don't believe you doesn't mean it's not true.
Right. Right.
So, I mean, it's just something.
So, do you also believe this? I believe this. We have like a million thoughts a day or whatever. A lot of them, from what I'm told from spirit, a lot of them are called inconsequential thoughts, which
Mhm.
means is they're just the flighty thoughts, and they don't mean anything. They don't hold any weight.
Right.
They're just random stupid thoughts, and you're like, oh, I don't want to think about that. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
you know, so taking those thoughts and kind of like weighing them against a feather. You know what I mean? So it's like it's almost like you when you're really thinking about something, but you're putting your emotion behind it, you're putting your energy behind it, and this and that. But when you got a random thought of thinking about some guy falling out of a tree, or something dumb like that, you know what I mean, or running over a squirrel, and doesn't mean it's going to happen. It's just those are kind of inconsequential thoughts, or just random, flighty, weightless, thoughts that are just they just go in and go out. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so
I think
I
it
always wondered
depends.
about that.
I think it depends.
Yeah, I always wondered about that too. But I would think that you would have to, because there has to be intent behind it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
I just
so
I think that that people or humans in general, like we have a lot of power, and the mind is a very, very
Yeah,
powerful thing. Consciousness is very powerful.
my
So
brain
it's,
scares me.
yeah, see, well, it's kind of like if I'm thinking about you all day, like, hey, what are we going to
Hmm.
do on this podcast, et
Right,
cetera, and then all of a
right,
sudden you contact me, like, is that me reaching out to you? Or was that a random thought because I've been thinking about it and inconsequential? Well, clearly not
right,
because you heard it. So
right,
then
right,
at the same point, if you message me and then I'm like, oh, hey, what a coincidence. No, I don't think it's a coincidence. I think it's a synchronicity. I think that you
right,
heard me, or whether it be telepathically or the
right.
consciousness
Hmm.
traveled across from my state to yours,
Yep.
and then you
Hmm.
acted on it instead of seeing it as an inconsequential
Right,
thought.
right, right. And we both are remote viewers. And for people who
Yeah.
don't know what remote viewers are, look it up. Now
Yeah.
we practiced that a long time ago. We used to practice that. I would talk to her through text, and she would hide something in her house, and I would have to remote view it to go find it.
Mhm.
And I think the one time I
And
did
we do
find
that.
it, but I was
Yeah.
looking too close at it. My remote viewing is I'm looking at things
Yeah.
where it's like an inch away from my face, where if I would just step back, because I
Yeah.
said what it was,
Yep.
but I had to pull it back to look at it, and it was
Yep.
a egg and a dragon, wasn't it, or something like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. You were like, it's a
Yeah,
figurine, but yeah. And I was like,
it's a figurine,
yeah.
but I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, but I was, yeah, but it's once to
Hmm.
step back. But so yeah, so remote viewing is a pretty wild thing too, and
Yeah.
that is a whole conversation that we can get into that.
I get to do that on TikTok a lot now. There is a
Really?
guy, yeah, his name is Colton, and his TikTok is Global UAP Task Force, and he's
Hmm.
basically on a mission to do 10,000 remote viewing sessions and get the percentage to try to come up with these statistics to prove that anyone can do it. So, and it's a blind study. So he'll pull up an image
Hmm.
on his computer, he'll give us an ID number, and then give us an amount of time to remote view it, then ask for impressions, and then show us what it is. And you would be, well, you probably wouldn't because you're a remote viewer, but a lot of people would just be amazed at the amount of times, like direct hits. We have amazing remote viewers
Hmm.
that they're able to move their consciousness. And for those that don't believe in it, I would love to have them explain it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean that it's very exhausting though too. I mean, it's not something where you work all day and then you come home and say, "Oh, I'm going to jump right into that and do some remote viewing." No,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you have to kind of, you kind of have to set yourself up for that. Now,
Yeah.
with me, remote viewing for me is effortless. I don't know why it's always been that way. There's been certain times where I'm very, very few I've had to struggle. Usually it kind of comes to me if I have to just think about something, I can be there, but it's just the fact that I don't, because I'm a daydreamer
Mm.
and I have to be careful when I daydream,
Yeah.
just because
You
of the fact
leave.
that
Yeah.
especially if I'm driving. I've had that where I was driving and trying to find a new way to work one time, and I ended up, whereas in I don't know, my conscience left, and when I kind of slammed back into myself, and I didn't know where I was, and I was
Ooh.
driving, and I'm like, what road am I on? What state am I in? I had
Yeah.
major confusion because I was like looking ahead, trying to find the best way. Do I take that road, or that road, or oh, I know that tree and I know that bar that go. So I was like taking myself there while I was driving, and I was like, yeah, I can't do that anymore. So yeah, it was kind of scary, but yeah, I've done that, and it's like, and it's very, talk about anxiety. It's like having an anxiety attack. As soon as I realize what I'm doing, I have to take a deep breath and be like, oh my god, and I'll get dizzy, and yeah, it sucks. But
Yeah.
yeah, so remote viewing, that I mean, that's a whole another show that we could do on, because that's, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and like the Monroe Institute, one of the people that goes in there, he actually has been there. He was there for a while. And so this that
Yeah.
those that don't know what the Monroe Institute is, that's basically where they started the whole school and
Right.
teaching. Yeah,
Right. Right. Right.
it's so awesome.
Mhm. Now I limit myself on purpose because of the fact that I just I don't have time to do all that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm a free thinker, and so
Yeah.
I kind of, my brain kind of wanders. So I have to put a lid on myself. Basically, I kind of just feel like, yeah,
Why? Let it
right? No,
shine. Come on.
yeah,
Yeah.
mm, yeah,
Come on.
no, and I'm not saying that I'm all that by any means. I'm just making a statement that, remote viewing is not very hard for me.
Mm.
I make it hard because of the fact that I don't want to be able to do that freely all the time. You know what I mean? Because I'm still in reality, and I'm still, working. I'm still doing other things. Now it's different when I'm doing. I do walkthroughs, mediumship walkthroughs for paranormal teams. On a live show or something like that. You know what I mean? Or even through text or even through video. I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
And um that to me I enjoy doing, and I'm able to remote view that and to see certain things, and there are times where my brain is, well, I know that I'm on the right track when I see things backwards,
Mm.
when I see things that are mirrored.
Yeah.
So so like this, like, let me see if I can do that. My Yeah, I can't. Okay, so I have my camera is mirrored because my microphone is to my right. You know what I mean? It's really weird
Yeah.
how it's all set up, but sometimes when I'm remote view, that's the way it is. I'll see things. It's like looking in a mirror. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's not all the time, but a lot of the time. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's like, yeah, and they'll say, nope, you got it, and then they'll look and I'll say, you got to remember, I'm standing on the opposite side,
Right.
and they're like, oh, then that makes sense. You know,
Yeah,
so
that's cool.
yeah, it is and it isn't, because it doesn't always happen. There's sometimes I can be on the right side and be like, okay, I'll get it right, and then it's still confusing. I can confuse myself very easily. Doesn't take much, but yeah. So, like, when I was going to ask you this, when you go to sleep, do you see things before you fall asleep? Like
Uh,
when your eyes are closed?
no.
Really?
Mm-mm. No.
When I close my eyes, it, well, it hasn't happened that way in a little bit, just because I haven't really been focusing on certain things, and I've been doing my new job and all this other stuff. So, but for the longest time, I would immediately close my eyes, and I would see another set of eyes looking right at me
Oh, nope.
every single every
Nope.
single night. Yep, right, looking right at me, and it was unsettling at first, but then I kind of got used to it, and then I bring it up to a friend of mine. This lady that was on an episode of Ghost Adventures, and I asked her about that, and she said they're just people watching over you. There's
Mm.
people that are watching you constantly.
Yeah.
Just acknowledge it and say hi. I'm like, well, I'm trying to go to bed, you know.
That's
But they don't.
interesting.
But they do. But they don't last long. I mean, they disappear, and then there'll be times when I close my eyes and I'll get a person
Yeah.
or a child or something and very specific,
Yeah.
and I have to think. Sometimes I would think that it would just be a wisp of a vision. You know what I mean? And then it would go away, and I wouldn't think about it, and that really didn't mean anything. But the ones that stick with me, where I remember, oh, 2 weeks later, what the exact picture was, there's a reason for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
for me it's a
so
knowing. Like I don't see, like, even if I can close, like how some people are like, "Oh, well, you see this picture behind your eyes," and I'm like, I don't. I, for me, it's like a knowing, or like I would say that I see a movie in my head, but I don't even do that. Like it's more like the easiest way to say is like an imagination. Like I just know. Like I know
right,
that
right,
if
right, right, right,
yeah, if I could watch a movie, this is what it would be doing, but
right.
I don't
See,
actually see that movie.
I do half and half.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's more, it's a knowing,
Mm,
but also, but I'm a very visual person. You see,
mhm.
that's the whole thing. A lot of
Yeah.
people don't understand that. Being, most men are visual persons
Right.
for a various amount of reasons.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, and so, um, but I am a very much a visual person. I see and feel with my eyes in that sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because when I look at something, not only when I look at something, I can almost hear the sound it makes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like if I look at these lights that I have next to me, they make a sound to me. And it's I can like see that it makes that sound. It's you know what I mean?
That's cool. Is that like synesthesia?
Right. Yeah, I guess. I mean, everything that I see
Mm.
is either a number, a tick, or a count, or
Yeah.
um when somebody, drives a car, I know I'll see and I won't even hear it, but I'll see that wheel, I'll hear it.
Mm.
And the same thing. I will
Yeah, I think synesthesia is like whenever they
certain
see
thing
color, like sound, they see
yeah,
color with
right,
sound.
right.
Yeah.
So if I see the whiteness of like a light,
Mm.
or something like that, like on a computer, that makes sound to me. But I can see it through my eyes. I don't know how to describe that, but it's like it's almost
That's
like
cool. Yeah.
my eyes have that ability to sense everything, and not put it in audibly in my ear, but audibly,
Yeah.
like in my third eye. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah. But I also have this constant frequency pitch in my ear that I've had since I was a child.
Yeah.
And I can't. So when I sit in a quiet room, there is no silence for me.
Oh,
It's like sitting in a soundproof room. You know what I mean? You've got people talk about tinnitus. Yeah, that's not it. I don't even, I can't even describe that's not even close to what I have. But I'm
yeah.
so used to it. But it's deafening.
Do you go to places and like have different frequencies at those places, or is it always the same tone?
It's usually the same tone.
Oh.
Yeah. It's part of the, I know, I think it's part of the earth,
Mm.
the gravity and all that. I can kind of hear that. But I hear it, but I don't hear it.
Right.
It's hard to describe. See, like with my wife, I call her radar because she can hear a fucking grasshopper fart down the street. I mean, seriously, I mean, she could hear, she can, I mean, she'll be like, "Do you hear that?" I'm like, "I don't hear anything." She'll be like, and there'll be a transformer down the street that she could hear because it's humming.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
she will hear, different things, people talking down the street and can barely hear their conversation. I'd be like, and here I am, grandpa ears going, what? You know?
That's
So,
really cool. I
but
mean,
yeah,
she probably doesn't like
right.
it, but that's
So,
cool.
no, yeah, she doesn't really care for it. So, case in point, I'm a loud person. I make noise. When I get up in the morning, I drag my feet. I slam cabinets. So all of that noise is amplified to her.
Mm. Yeah.
So I have to be extra quiet in the morning because she's still sleeping, and I have to not wake her up because I'm trying to be respectful. But being me, I'm just in my routine, and sometimes I forget,
Yeah.
and sometimes I let go of the cabinet too soon, and it slams. I'm like, oh shit, you know. So yeah. So getting back to the looking at things, and I look at things and I hear what sound they makes, or what sound they make, or or what I think that their sound makes.
Yeah.
It's always been that way for me.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
you hear their frequency.
It's
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
disturbing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very disturbing
Well, that
sometimes,
could be
you know.
beneficial though. I
But
mean,
yeah.
it may be disturbing
It
now,
could be
but
something that's really untapped for me. I haven't really researched that too much. What did you call it?
so
What did
I
you
know
call it?
I don't know what the equivalent of it is, but synesthesia is where people see sound or they see colors with sound. So like
Oh yeah.
yeah. So for example, like a song, they would see like waves of color instead of instead of the, I mean they hear it, but they would see the color with that.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, that makes sense.
So I
Yeah,
wonder
because
if
when I
it's
hear
that
music,
or yeah.
I have a combination. I think because when I hear certain songs and everything, yeah, I can hear the wavelengths, but it's just it's really weird how I perceive that. I never really thought about it until you kind of mentioned that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is why we do this show. This is why we have this conversation because of the fact that we are able to kind of explore different topics and different avenues of things and whatnot. So, but yeah, no, this has been a really good conversation. But yeah, so we try to keep it at an hour, and which is almost an hour now. So, um, yeah, we will come back Thursday. We're going to talk about some more different things, random things. We'll probably maybe have a little bit better list that I can
Or
come up with.
not. I mean
Right, right, right. I mean, it's this is like I said, this is our first show we've done in a long time. So, but yeah, 32 is going to be on for a long time, I think, because I really enjoy doing this and this is really fun having the conversation and whatnot. But when your spirit finally calms down and stops interrupting you, you know, yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
There's nothing I could say to him. He doesn't. He wouldn't listen to me. I don't know what.
Yeah, so the topic there he's really focused on consciousness and he's really focused on getting information out uh, when it comes to what he feels that people need to hear and it needs to be said often
Th-
like doing something kind for someone even when you don't
right,
want to having the
right,
patience with people when you don't want to. It's
right.
all about love and about using your heart space to
Hmm.
just tell people, just tell them they look nice that day, and you never know, like it
Right.
could really make their day.
Hmm. Oh yeah, most definitely. I always ask, or I always try to be a beacon of light for somebody in need for that day. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I want to be able to be inspirational to somebody or whatnot. You know. So I think today or tonight, I think that we have done that. I think that we have kind of set a little bit of a milestone of what the show is going to be. You know, um, considering the fact that we've used to do some shows in the past, so we've kind of created a new milestone of starting something new. So, and I'm really glad, and I'm glad that me and you have reconnected in that sense to do this. So, but I want to thank everybody for listening. This has been 32, and we will be back with another episode on Thursday. And like I said, who knows what it's going to be, but we usually let Spirit try to help us with that. But we usually just run our own gamut. So, but yeah. So, thanks everybody. And this is 32, and we are out.